Hey, everybody. This is how many shares we have. Of course, it could be undercounted, could be overcounted, it could be some double count. I try to keep it accurate, but you know, that's a big number. So even putting some sort of margin of error on it, it's a big number. 17,078,000 shares. It's a big number. The stock is at 25 cents, and next trip is down 3 cents at $3.49.22. Finger is at 127.5. Genius is up 0.0005. I hope it drops off my list, but that's at 64.62. And GDC, the headlines were it's worth $22, $4.39. My view is that we can't win in these stocks. And if you are on the rail train, I think your account is going to become potentially of a size that you don't have to do these kind of stocks anymore. And maybe you can find an ETF or a money manager or there's other ideas I have, but you could play this with a little percentage of your money instead of having to make it your whole life. There's no way to win here. The terminology that the shorts or the criminals, the counterfeiters, all of that, I don't think it does justice to what's going on. There's been a prolonged, incremental campaign to create a situation, in my judgment. Number one, the securities market is imitating the banking market by creating fractional reserve security markets. Secondly, I think the changes or lack of or indifference of regulators and regulations, I think it's intentional. This system increases assets under management, it increases fees, it increases commissions, and it gives a way of sucking all the money that the banks get the Treasury to print, sucking all that money into the banking system and into a few people's hands. On top of that, this allows the funds that they set up for you, so you put your money in and they're competing with each other. This allows them to outperform and keep their jobs. Whether this is done intentionally or not, I think it's intentional, but you can disagree. The competition on Wall Street is dog eat dog. There used to be a billionaire here. He was Greek. What was his name? He owned all the parking lots downtown, but he was smarter than everybody because a parking lot generates revenue. But when the government or business comes to build a office building, guess what? you're rich. And I forget his name right now, but he lost his money because he just trusted everybody and co-signed for dozens, probably everybody was his friend. He co-signed on everybody's development project. And when the crash in the office market happened in I don't know, the late 80s, I can't remember now. He unfortunately went suffer. He had a change in circumstance, but he was quoted in an article as saying it's a dog-eat-dog world, not a dog-eat-dog, a dog-eat-dog world. And that's pretty, I always remember it. But anyway, it's highly profitable. I don't think there's a way to beat it. But the other thing that goes on is by creating this wasteland for investors, such that the Merrill Lynch rule gets imposed, and essentially any advisor doing her fiduciary duty stays away, is told to stay away from any stock under $5 or under $1 billion. So these arrogant SOBs can come on here and make their blanket statements, but it's all of a piece. You guys try to pick one guy. Oh, he's great. Tony makes sense, or Platinum Blonde, whatever. They're going to say some things that make sense, but it's all of a piece. They're just driving the herd of cattle or the herd of sheep to the stockyards. That's all they're doing. But anyway, the flip side of that is it creates almost a monopoly in general. I mean, you have many players, but it creates a Wall Street monopoly on capital formation. And boys, they love that. When you control the money, you control the fees. And more importantly, you control the creation of equity. It's, I believe it's all eventually going to come down, but the two things that are causing me a little doubt, not about my projection that the market's going to have this run up, but a little bit of a doubt when it gives up the ghost, is I don't know. There's a lot to think about, and I guess we won't do it now. A lot to think about. Can the planet actually, it's funny how the, whatever you want to call it, the greenies or the lefties or the liberals, whatever you want to call it, they're all anti-oil, anti-coal, anti the greedy capitalists. But when you put them in the guise of a Palo Alto genius or elsewhere, all of a sudden they're gods and goddesses. But everything they do consumes energy. And in fact, it consumes the entire planet. But it's all okay if we can use our phones. And I don't know, it's an interesting measure of how contradictory and hypocritical is the word, but I don't think they do it intentionally. But human viewpoints and desires and judgments can be they can be the same thing or at opposite ends of an argument at the same time. It's amazing. But anyway, the what's going to power this AI revolution, of course, is energy. It's all about energy and magnifying energy. It's interesting. I've really wondered how our workforce can be so top heavy with some men, but mostly women coming in at the top levels of everything and leaving the undesirable work to them, to men, but then they don't want to marry those men. They want to, so you get a society where the same women are all dating one guy, like Elon Musk or Leah, anyway. But what's interesting about robotics is maybe machines will do all the work. And then there is a way that work can be distributed a bunch of people that got an education and market. It's interesting. But anyway, it's all energy. It's all energy. And when you see Trump, and of course everyone gets angry at Trump, but I don't think these things he's doing, he just came up with. He's been thinking about it, but I think they've been, Kamala Harris and Biden and others, it's seeped out. I think these are national security plans at one level. It might be an attempt to root out election interference. I don't know about this drug. I think Canada's a worse source of drugs than Venezuela. But it's two things at once. There's an aspect of energy, which of course is everything. It's everything. People just think you switch on your light or get in your car or hop a flight. It's the genius of men, the English language, men and women. It's energy. But it's also buttressing the financial system. You bring in by regime change, you can bring all those assets that are not collateralized by loans and equity offerings and a bunch of genius financial types machinations. You bring that into the system, and then they can hypothecate it and rehypothecate it and leverage us until we have to take over Jupiter to have enough collateral. So anyway, my point is, it looks like the United States is claiming energy and perhaps bringing in collateral. AI itself or data centers or whatever you want to call this, quantum computing, as long as people believe it, it may create new collateral as well. Of course, I wonder, once they figure it out, maybe somebody will have a way of miniaturization, making it miniature, making it smaller. But that's down the road. Anyway, so the markets could rally, but maybe they don't crash right away as all this stuff goes on. I don't know. We got to stay tuned for that. But anyway, let's talk about Railtown and AI. So you've got 52.5 now wants to buy back all the stock they couldn't sell on the way down. It's all rigged. It's all rigged. It's just rigged. It's the wrong price. Now, what are the risks in Railtown that would make all the doom and gloomers correct? One would be, I think, if the software failed. I don't know if I can call that what they have, but if it failed. Secondly, would be if they take a toxic financing, which one of the reasons, see, I think even regulators are in on this stuff. Not always, I'm not saying every single person knows that they are. But if you have a big law firm calling in on behalf of a hedge fund, and it slows down the approval process, it may slow it so long that the company is starved of capital, and then the company, I'm not talking about Railtown, any company, goes to a front like Aubrey Advisors or Chadron, for example, and behind them is a big, huge fund competing with all other funds, and they're no smarter than each other. They might be plenty smart, I don't know, but they have to fight human emotions too and make their judgment calls. But one thing that can help them is destroying the entire market cap, stealing the entire market cap of every over-the-counter stock, every NASDAQ stock except, you know, Microsoft and Apple and Nvidia. And it's a tough situation. I don't think there's any way to win. Now, my choice, which I came through to with skepticism, I don't know why I can't talk today. But I also came to it with this sort of amorphous experience. I don't know if you call it professional. When I went back to my old office last week, although it's in a different, it consolidated into a different, anyway, it's not physically the same office anymore. So I don't know. Soon everyone will retire and it'll all just fade away. Like Douglas MacArthur, thank God. There's a lot of I don't know if it's called imagery, but there's a lot of presentation that goes on that you go, wow, this is all professional. They really are doing something. But it's all the same, you know. They're actually the asset gatherers. That's what Wall Street's become. You gather assets, you put it in an ETF, you put it in managed money, and then the gatherer, the broker, or the wealth advisor gets a piece of it, which is a model that I think might be severely threatened by AI, believe it or not. Just like the legal profession. It's interesting. But anyway, that's not why I came on there to talk about all those things. Anyway, my professional experience, as my dad, I told you that when I worked at Merrill Lynch, he gave me, come on, Bill, I'll give you a ride home. He drove me home. He was a younger man then. He's only I guess 25 years older than 24 years older than I, 25. So he's young. I think he was 24 when he had me. So he's a young man in his career, but he was going through a phase where he had a mustache and he would smoke what he called these little cheroots. He's not a smoker, But for this brief phase, didn't last very long. He'd have these little tiny, I don't know where that came from, but I'd be surprised if it lasted more than 6 months. But he had just come back from overseas. It lasted about that here in the United States. Maybe he did it for a while there, but anyway, so anyway, we're in his little small car that you know, when you're on a government salary, it doesn't measure up. And I think he was interested in what I was doing. I was making more money than he was, just a whippersnapper. Anyway, he took I don't know, he didn't really smoke it. I don't know why he lit it. Maybe he was nervous. But he said, he had it though. He said, and I don't remember which hand, but he said, let me ask you something. How much money do people make in your industry, you know, Wall Street? And I hesitate to call it an industry. Wow. That's what a message. What a message when you're struggling to start your career. What a message. But I hesitate to call myself professional because I know all these people. And they're not, I don't know, is every profession like being on Wall Street? Maybe every profession is full of a bunch of people you go, really? Are they? Anyway, what I saw with Railtown and the whole AI industry was just this sort of perfect storm of an opportunity. I will admit that information that I was thinking I was receiving, but I don't think, well, it's clear. It's clear in retrospect. I never got anything material. I never got anything that was correct, and nothing that was actionable. But you know, I personally, I don't think you can blame anybody for that. People get excited about their story. They start believing it. They start believing their own spit, as the saying goes. And I don't know if they embellish in a you know, a dastardly way. They just getting excited about the story. But I do wish we had known, and there's no way to know. There's no way to know. I wish we had known that the company was getting on top of this blue whale of an opportunity. They're like a little barnacle on top of a blue whale, or a tick on top of an elephant. This TELUS deal could be just so enormous, but people look at the stock and they go, "Oh, it's speculative. And they're angry." But I don't know. Is everybody out there a day trader? I never in my life found any day trader that made money consistently. Now, there are some probably, but apparently Stevie Cohen got his start because he was such a great trader. But just read the book about him, Black Ice or White Ice or Edge of the Ice or Gray Ice. He's a cheater. And everybody that has, and then you get big enough, money comes to you, deals come to you, and you don't have to cheat anymore, or not as much. course, that's in my opinion. I wish I had known that it would take this long, but I didn't. I didn't. And I think you're going to see, when the tide turns, how quickly a true story with real buyers that think and study it, once they start coming in, I think you're going to see that it's smart to build your position. It's easy in retrospect to say, oh, so-and-so was right, even though he bought shares at 48 cents. It's just manipulating the narrative all of a piece to put this heaviness on stock prices so they can then execute the final slaughter so they can pull their money out. I don't know why they bother. They should go to Minnesota, start up a bunch of things, and take hundreds of billions of dollars out of the government when the Democrats are running it. But I don't know. I mean, that guy Chapo must wonder why he's in prison. Anyway, what I saw was this wave coming and the wave of investment coming. And Realtor's just sitting there to ride like a surfer on top of one of those gigantic waves in Hawaii just to come to shore. It has been a tough, I think it's been 7 months. It might be only 6, but we're in the 7th month and it's been tough. And I started talking about the stock as a trade 13, 14 months ago. So people who got in then maybe paid 38 cents or so, they're down. And there were some, I hate that argument. Well, we had some chances to get out with a profit. I never told you to sell for a profit. It's not a day trading stock. If unfortunately the heaviness wins, but at any time particularly over the last 6 months, it could have been. That's what I think is about to unfold. Could have happened then. It could have, but it didn't. So does it make it wrong now? I don't know. But anyway, what are the risks with Railtown? I think the risks are the software blows up. 2, that they take a toxic financing. Or I have to address it, that somehow this delay means that their technology is going to be obsolete and somebody else is going to come win the war. Well, what you saw yesterday and the day before, and maybe we'll do some of that again today, the scale of what's coming is just beyond belief. And there's plenty of room for, if you want to compare it to the financial industry, there's plenty of room for dozens of hedge funds, a dozen, behemoth banks, huge wealth advisory firms and mutual funds, and then a Vanguard or a Fidelity. There's room for all of it. I think there'll be. I don't think that's actually an issue. It's a fair question, but I don't think it's an issue. And then the other thing I think is less of a threat to your capital. But if the company sells itself too soon, which is a risk, it really is. So I think the risks break down to, unless you're a day trader, but you shouldn't be day trading this stock or swing trading, whatever the hell that means. You shouldn't be doing that. This is not that kind of stock. I think the three risks, other than, you can't cover everything. Venus hits Mars, and the detritus falls on Earth, or the moon is not really real. It's a spaceship and it comes to life and it takes over the planet, or there's an outbreak of Black Plague, Black Death, and it wipes out half the I can't make up all those kind of situations. But ceteris paribus, I think there's three risks to Railtown. One is the company does toxic financing. And that, my friends, could happen if delays keep going on and these devils pitch their woo to the CEO and the board, and somebody tells the CEO to have an interview with the shorts. I don't know who that person was. I don't know what was on their mind. But people can't see it because people aren't assholes like I am. I don't want to be an asshole. I'd like to be liked, but apparently I'm not. But I don't think it's being stubborn. I think if you see something, you can't lie to yourself about it. Unless it's a pretty hot chick, you can pretend that she really doesn't swear too much and doesn't have too many tattoos or whatever. You can make those excuses, particularly when you're young. But you got to see it. And and some people don't look. And I know there's lots of things in life I don't look at. It's all stress management. It's all anxiety management. The human being is a complicated set of electrons and molecules and consciousness and fears and greeds and desires and wants and needs and so not everybody can look at it, but it is a risk that because they come from all directions. Some of them know what they're doing, some are idiots, and then they get upset. They don't want you to call them a short or working with the shorts or being paid by that collection of criminals, that criminal enterprise. They don't want you to say that. Well, the only other option is they're dumb. Dumb can be they don't know anything, they're uninformed, or it can just be they don't know what they're talking about, but they don't want to hear that. It's either or. Because a thinking person that claims to study these markets anyway, the evidence is right there. The evidence is right there. You're either complicit or stupid. It's just, there's no in between. Except you might be managing your stress and not wanting to think about it. That, or study it. That may also be an alternative. I knew I shouldn't have left that note. on the IRS's door. So that's one risk. If the system, these people can delay everything, and the company gets to a point it needs capital, or it gets wooed by some, wow, that's amazing, and they sign a toxic deal that doesn't really look like a toxic deal, and the attorneys say, oh, you got to do it, and the board says you better do it because we got to cover your ass. That's one risk in Railtown. Toxic financing. All right, well, let me get through all three. The second risk is, what was it? I'm talking as an investment, not day trading, not day trading. Well, I already said it, didn't I? The second risk is the software blows up and doesn't work. It just fails. And the third risk is not really going to hurt you, but it could disappoint you, is the company sells too soon or at too low a price. Those are the three risks I see in Railtown. I don't see any other risks. The addressable market is in the trillions, but you know what? I'm not even sure after you watch those videos yesterday. I'm not even sure that 1 or 2 trillion or 5 trillion or 7. The brain doesn't process it. But I don't think those numbers even begin to describe how big this revolution is ahead of us. If it works, if society falls apart, but everything will fail then. So how realistic are any of those risks? How realistic are they? And how condemning would any of those three risks be to your investment in Railtown, which I just the so-called market is telling you this company is going to do less than $1 million in revenue. Probably it's projecting, depending on the multiple you use, less than the revenue they'll show in their first quarter. Probably 200,000 or 300,000 is my guess. It is a guess. It's unbelievable just how bleak and how negative the price isn't telling you something. Maybe it does in all those other stocks. The Dan Borgino stocks and the Frank Bene Tutabene stocks. I don't know. Those prices those are day trades. They're computerized trading when retail gets involved, and the computers use the exact same techniques that these brainiacs come to you with, only the computers do it all day long, all night long, without emotions. They don't have to go up and use the John. They don't come on here, and they just are relentless. It just keeps going and going and going. But they do it in parameters. Once a parameter is broken, they back off while the stock complex falls or shoots up, and then they start another parameter to gain. It just goes on and on and on. But everyone wants you to believe you can learn something from these prices. I think the thing to do is stay away. I can't remember the skit in Monty Python, but he says, it's the It's the Bruce's from Waterloo, and I think he's describing Australian table wines. There's a Cockney Rod Laver, which has something to it like that reminds you of an Aborigines armpit or something like that. But then there's some other bottle, I forget now, I have to listen to it again, that has a message in it, and the message says, beware. And this is all, you just got to beware all of it. You're not going to miss out if you just get away from all of this crap. But I think Railtown, every now and then there is something as you sift through. Of course, the last 7 months, Railtown has, or the last year or so, from 38 cents, Railtown has ultimately performed like, I wouldn't compare it to Finger recently, but like a Finger or like a GDC or like a fill in the blank. It's performed like all of them, and that's what they want you seeing it. And I wish I could have protected you from it, but I just can't. I just can't. But I think I can protect you from bailing out. I think I can. But you got to acknowledge these 3 risks. I'll run through some others afterward, but these 3 risks. One is the software blows up. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could. I don't think it's going to happen. Why? Because they started early. They've built software. Marwan and Corey have built software all their careers. They've got reportedly a great engineering team. They've battle tested their software. I know that's the wrong word. And it is commercial. They were selling it. And I take great comfort in the fact that 170 companies were were gathered in the net of the company that John Ruffalo, Mike Norbrega, and Dr. Tom Core founded, along with the IBM guy, to select the best AI companies with the goal of imitating Constellation software. And all of those companies were screened, and I assume many more. And it wasn't until the Railtown, and many of those companies were public, so that doesn't explain it, that, oh, it's just a way to go public. It wasn't until the Railtown team showed up with their technology that these talented people, Ruffalo, Norbrega, and Core, and the rest of the team said, why don't we let them buy us? I think that gives me considerable confidence that the Railtown suite of software selections is not going to blow up. Now, it's their self-testament that they're battle-tested, first in class, best of class. Maybe Langchain got a bit of a head start in terms of first. Doesn't mean they're better. So I don't think, and I also don't think TELUS would select Railtown unless they tested it, unless things are moving so quickly, some knucklehead signed up the deal and they didn't test. I don't buy it, but that's a real risk. If they put Railtown on the data center, They run it through the NVIDIA. They run it through what I would expect Cohere. And for some reason, it's found wanting. That's a risk. I think it's a small risk. But we got to acknowledge that's like drilling. I'm sorry to use my analogies, but that's like drilling for this great target, and you have all the seismic, you have all the data. It's the other, you have, I hate the word close, all other wells worked nearby, and you're all excited, it's going to work, it's going to work. But until you drill and you hit the target and then you production test the well, you don't know. So it is a risk. We could get one of the most massive dry holes we've ever experienced. I personally put that risk at very small, but it's not. It exists. So that's one of the risks, and we'll find out. My opinion on that one is we'll find out by the time they get to Phoenix. She'll be rising. She'll see the note I left on her door. By the time TELUS or Railtown announces whatever they have to announce, and then TELUS opens up their data center for business, I think that risk that I just described, that the software will blow up, is gone. What's the time frame that we have to wait for that? Well, frankly, it could be next week, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be, I think the soonest we'll find out is they'll announce, like, we're open for business. Rule Britannia, Britannia, rule the waves, and they'll do it with fanfare. I think it'll be mid-February. So we've got four weeks before we find out for sure that the Railtown offerings work on top of NVIDIA and top of Cohere and can carry the load. That's not much. That's not much of a time frame, and I really don't think that risk is there. I think the train has moved down the track so far that it's probably not something to worry about. But we can't dismiss it. That's number one. Number two, could the company take toxic financing such that the company just destroys all of the upside and all of the goodness of all their years of work by signing with a group of charlatans who hide behind attorneys and a veil of superiority, such that whatever is good gets washed out by an endless supply of real and so-called phantom issuance of shares. I don't think that's going to happen here after talking to Corey. I don't think he fully, I don't know why he talked to the shorts if he really understood the risks, but he's not unique. I haven't met a CEO other than Greg McCabe. I haven't met him. I've spoken with him. I don't meet CEOs who understand this. I don't find my colleagues on Wall Street, the ones that are still working, they don't understand it. I find really sharp securities attorneys that I've interacted with, they have no idea. Nobody understands it. Nobody. But I do think that Corey has enough investment banking experience that he has not, I think he reads the documents, and he has not done a toxic financing to date. So I think based on his previous performance, if it's a predictor of his future performance, he's not going to do a toxic financing. I also think that this whole heaviness, the whole group of heaviers, they've been attacking this company since their computers got them trapped when the acquisition deal was announced, or maybe before that. They're doing their game plan like they do in hundreds, if not thousands, of companies, stock valuations and capitalizations. But I think they've shot their fallade or enfilade of bullets and cannon and unleashed their cavalry. They've done everything they can, and I do not see the company getting into dire straits where they need capital, that they kind of look the other way and don't think that they mind that the girl is missing a front tooth because look, check, she's so hot, or whatever. And they sign the document with these, I don't know what comparison to make, but that blindness that sometimes we have when we make commitments. They don't look, they sign it just because I got to save the company, got to save my job, my wife will leave me. And then the next thing they've set up is a decade of hell. They might as well go work at a, Walmart or a 7-Eleven. And not that those are bad places to work, but it's not the goal that they had when they started their company. I don't think they're going to run out of money because of four things. They run a lean ship. The salary and the amount of staff are all kept very low. 2, this TELUS project, they don't have to pay for. So they don't have, when you think about it, they don't have to pay for customer acquisition in any form whatsoever. That's big savings. 3, they have capital coming in monthly for the next 6 months, different amounts. From the financings that Corey did, I think very intelligently, he did each financing with either a half or a warrant attached, but he put a short fuse on those warrants, 18 months, or give or whatever each situation was. So people, if they want those shares, they have to exercise. And those deals are going to bring in, I think, several, I looked at it, I think $4 million, maybe $5 million over the next few months. So they have enough money that they don't need to go to a toxic financer. Also, I forget where my count is, I guess number 4. I think there's plenty of people that want to give them money strategically and whatever, but I think they have to wait, the same damnable thing, they have to wait until this TELUS anaconda gets up from the deep and raises its head and its full body. So the regulators say, okay, you can start buying. But I think there's plenty money waiting in the wings at good prices to come in. I also think the company is earning revenue, however small, but I think they are currently earning revenue. And that may have more of an impact on their ability to go receive financing rather than actually covering costs. But I think we're in a period where the company finally does not need to go to the markets. We're lucky they did. They were in that situation. They came to market early, pre-Chat GPT. No one knew really what they were doing. So we're lucky for that because we get to buy the stock. Otherwise, they'd be in the private equity channel and we'd wait until Vanguard comes up with the market neutral AI ETF worldwide income with a kicker fund. We have an opportunity. There's a blessing to our pain as well as this curse. All right, the other reason I think there was one more reason I don't think they'll take toxic financing. I mean, I wish Canaccord weren't there, but I'd guess that 99% of Canaccord has nothing to do with the shenanigans. One other reason that I think they're not going to have to do any toxic financing, but this gets back to the first risk, which I think we're going to find out very quickly. But if the software is hunky-dory and it's the bee's knees, it's the brick house, that software scales. NVIDIA scales. So when TELUS says to the world, we're open for business, you're not talking about, putting salesmen and women on the road and it's going to take 6-9 months or a year or 2 years and it's a program and it's got to catch fire and it might be 2029. You're not talking about that. You are literally talking about as soon as decision makers receive from TELUS either an advertising campaign, an in-person campaign, a email campaign, a brochure in their bill campaign, a text message campaign, video campaign that goes out to all their customers. As soon as they alert the world, but Canada's the important part. As soon as they alert Canada, we're open for business. They are the sovereign AI factory. They are the first and the only one currently open. For all this developer talent and all these companies trying to keep their software clients, it's the only one open. And for now, it's cheaper by half in terms of electricity. I'm not sure of the exact number. We'll find out, but it is cheaper. It's speedier. It's more effective. And it uses NVIDIA. and probably Cohere. So people are going to want to come over. So TELUS is going to go out to what, 20 million hookups that they have? And maybe only 1 or 2, 3% of those are enterprises who transfer over, but that's a big number. But the key thing to remember, the switch is a matter of going to their computer, going to the TELUS website, clicking TELUS Sovereign AI Data Center Factory in Rimouski, Canada, clicking on the button, a page opens up, and then it says here, I don't know if they'll have different levels of usage, but you go through the TELUS selection page, and then it'll go to, here's your bundle of software. This is what we're including in it. You can opt in or opt out, or you can pick and choose. And yet to be proven, but it's my impression, because it's all Canada all the time, I think when they choose that bundle, it's Railtown. Now they may have another page where they choose which Railtown. Do they want the basic? I've shown it to you. The basic, the pro, the semi-pro, the complainer, the bitcher, or the enterprise plan. They'll pick their plan. But you know what? It's click, 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 click. I've read all the updates and click. And the switch is like that. And remember, Railtown controls, they're going to do their own marketing to their own network of companies, and basically they control that. Or they strongly incentivize it, but with phone calls and effort. But as soon as the transfer happens, that revenue starts going to the top line, but monthly. It's monthly revenue. It gets split on whatever the agreement is. So Railtown, assuming the software doesn't blow up, or the data center doesn't blow up, or NVIDIA doesn't blow up, Railtown is very close to receiving monthly revenues from that data center. And those revenues can scale. Let's say the first time, the first pass, 10, I don't know, you might think I'm crazy. Let's say, I'm talking about TELUS's network. Let's say 500 people sign up in the first afternoon. The next day it could be 1,000. The next day it could be 5,000. The next day it could be 15,000. The following day it could be 30,000. It will scale, and the revenues start right away. So I don't see any risk. There's always risk of poor judgment and being seduced, but I don't see any risk that Railtown's going to do with toxic financing. The third risk, would they sell too soon? Yes, I think that is a risk. If Microsoft were to come to the company and say, we'll pay $300 million in, stock, we'll give you 50 cents a share in cash and the rest in stock, I think they'd accept it. Not without shareholder approval, but they would say, okay, well, let's show it to our shareholders. And I think that the mindset is that Microsoft can grow, if it's Microsoft can grow another 100 times I don't buy that. I'd much rather a Telus bought us or another small company bought us so we could experience the rocket ship in multiples that is possible, rather than burying that experience inside of this whale of a company. You get buried in the stomach of the whale at, I don't know, what would be 300 million? That would probably be $1.50 a share. Or maybe somebody, Microsoft comes in at $1 billion. They'll say, okay, we'll show it to. So there is a risk of that. I hope that, and I think he's competitive enough and smart enough not to put an exclusivity on it. So yeah, we'll put that to vote, shareholder vote, but we're still going to accept other offers. I think what will save us from the company being sold too soon and at too low a price is a bidding war. And then the market will suss it out. So they'll suss the correct price, the correct price in a bidding war. So anyway, those are the three risks that I see. I don't think they're real risks of loss or catastrophic loss as long as you stay in the stock. You do have to endure this unpleasantness of just unrelenting heaviness every bloody day. But hey, that's not something any of us can control. The one risk I left out is the technology obsolescence. Some like LangChain can come take it all, or Google can do it, or NVIDIA can put a whole team. NVIDIA's got their hands full. You heard NVIDIA yesterday. They put 1,000 engineers into something, making that robot that bleeped and blipped. They don't have the time. They'd rather buy the company. They don't have the people. So that's one answer. The second answer to the technology obsolescence or losing their pace is I'm going to show you something. Morgan Stanley is projecting that the robotics industry, which I showed you the videos, and that's what got me turned on, turned in, and tuned out, whatever the thing was, you know, back in May, I think. That analyst is calling for, by 2050, which in my case, I may be well into my drooling and stumbling phase of life. I hope not. I'd love to be healthy beyond that. But, you know, be a Dick Van Dyke or a Clint Eastwood. I'd love it. But he's projecting 1 billion robots. 1 billion robots out in the world. 1 billion. Every one of those robots is going to be hooked up to a data center. Every one of those data centers, conceptually, is going to be fronted by Railtown. Now, realistically, they'll have Google ADKs, they'll have LangChain ADKs, they'll have one of the dozen other companies creating ADKs. But not everybody drives a Lexus. Some people drive a Cadillac. Some people drive a Subaru. Some people drive whatever Musk makes, Tesla. So there's room for it all. It's gigantic. It's gigantic. So that's why I left the technology risk, the technological obsolescence off of my list. What are the upsides ahead of you? I'll shut up here and go to your comments. But what are the upsides? I think the upside comes when TELUS turns on the data center. Until then, this knowledgeable buying, well, wrong. If TELUS releases the news that allows these other investors in Canada to put their non-compete or their standstill agreements in their file, buying could come in. But broadly, I think we can plan on when TELUS opens the data machine. I think that's 4 weeks away. 4 or 5 weeks away. So we got to get through that. We just got to live through it. Now, in the meantime, everybody's on vacation still in Canada. In the meantime, the story can get out. And you know Corey's telling the story. He spent 2 hours with me. I'm just an idiot YouTuber, as they say, but I'm just one person. He spent an hour and a half with the shorts, in my judgment, but others think with a reasonable, a big investor, the Tiger. So what does it mean? It means he's out telling the story. There might not be people listening yet because they're on vacay, but they're going to start listening, and the story will start catching hold. So you don't necessarily have to wait until the data center opens up to see this stock snap back to its highs. So be aware of that. This can happen very quickly, and it can happen early. The other thing that could happen, so 2 things could happen before the TELUS data center is open for business. TELUS could make an announcement earlier, but also research could come out earlier. So those are the 2 catalysts that could come at any time. What are we looking for then? Buyers. But until then, the heaviness is going to rule the market, and it's going to suppress the price, and it's just very hard to watch every day. But I just point out to you, I don't think you have more than 4 or 5 weeks before that data center opens up. I could be wrong. And then the story's really going to be told. And so these things can change really, really quickly. I do like the idea of kind of having a 6-month time frame so you don't drive yourself insane. But the price can get healthy very quickly. That's it. 2 catalysts that could happen before the data center being open for business: research and a TELUS/Railtown news release. That the news itself I'm not interested in. I just want all those investors up in Canada to be able to take the standstill agreements, whatever you call them, and put them in their file and put a stamp on it expired and start buying. And then the opening of the data center, I think it doesn't matter what you hear or I hear. I think the hubbub around the growth in revenues could turn this into the story of 2026. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but I don't have to be right in all my glorious projections for you to make a lot of money. It could just be part of it. I think I've said everything I wanted to say. Except I've shown you the chart. That the chart, in my judgment, is setting up for a snapback rally, which could happen at any time, or it could be 3 weeks from now. The chart doesn't tell you exactly when; it just tells you it's going to happen pretty soon. And when it starts, it's going to snap back like a I can't think of an example, like a jealous husband. All right, let's go back up here. Pete the Greek, how are you? Opa, Red Pepperoni, hello. The Pirates agreed to terms with Dennis Santana. Okay, good. CJ Yukon, how are you? T. Alex, hi, Railtown team. Pete the Greek, are you going to the SEC presser next week with Ann V? I don't know who Ann V is, and I don't think she knows who I am. But I was intending to go. However, I am not sure I'm going to go. I don't have the emotional or psychic bandwidth to deal with some of the stuff that's gone on. But we'll see, Pete. Right now, I woke up this morning thinking I will go, but I haven't made up my mind yet. I know it's soon, so I guess, Pete, I'm inclined to say that I'll suck it up, take a deep breath, and go to it. I want to check and make sure if it's worth the effort. But I'm leaning to going to it. CJ Yukon. Seems to be holding. Yeah, I think there's one guy who I blocked who's been bragging that it's going to go, or he's holding out for 24 cents. They may get it down to 24 cents. To get it to the lows, I think it was 22.5. They may do that in some sort of spike. What would give you a pretty good clue that it's going to turn around? One way you'd see that is if there's a cataclysmic, a vomiting of shares at the lows, like it goes down to 23 cents on 1.5 million shares, and then snaps back. That's called capitulation. It's called key reversal. It's called, anyway, it's a huge sign that a lot of people got suckered out and it's about to go up. It's like it cleanses all the sellers. But that doesn't happen so much anymore because the selling never stops. It just never stops. Just never stops. I don't know much about GAMCO, Global Gold and Natural Resources Income Trust. The low this year, 368, the high 533. It pays a can never find it. It pays 8% dividend. I don't find that oh, here, user Thomas. I don't. You can do better in royalty plays, but I think gold belongs in everybody's portfolio. I like the concept, gold and natural resources and income. If I set up a company, that's exactly what I'd try to do. So I'll we had a chance, and I had a chance, it didn't happen, to get in early on all this stuff. But private equity is there now, gobbling it all up. However, there's plenty of room in that natural resources trend. I think the stock market has, like I say, this huge rally ahead. But I think after a correction, even a crash, the next 15, 20, 25 years, AI seems to be part of it, but I think it'll be that description right there, natural resources. I think that's what it'll be. Hey, Joe Marty, Silver Skyrocket. I wonder how many shares you can get you a board seat or an advisory role. I never asked. I didn't ask. Remember that from the Joker? Who was that? Was that the woman that married Alec Baldwin and I saw at Cipriani's? And she bought a town. What was her name? She sat right next to me. And Billy Joel came over. He just had to talk to her. What was her name? Anyway, she was the femme fatale that was drawn to Jack, well, the guy that became the Joker. And she walked up behind him as he was getting dressed in the mirror and looking at himself. And she puts her hand on it and she says, "You look good, Jack." And he turns and looks at her. I didn't ask. I don't know if I can get a board seat. I don't think they'd give me one. And I think this is gonna be on automatic pretty soon. I really do. I could be wrong. I mean, I talked to somebody, an investor last night, and their opinion is that, you hold it for 2 or 3 or 4 years. I think you will hold it maybe that long, but it's going to be called something else. It'll be Microsoft, or it'll be, Oracle, or it'll be, NVIDIA or TELUS shares. And there might be, if Microsoft were to buy Railtown, let's say what's Microsoft trading for? 476. So let's say they paid us, people are going to think I'm crazy. But what if they paid us 1 share of Microsoft for every 10 shares of Railtown? That may not happen. I'm telling you, my impression is they will consider selling the stock at much lower numbers. So, it might be for every 100 shares of Railtown, we get 1 share of Microsoft. But I'm ever hopeful there'll be a bidding war. So say they give us 1 share of Microsoft for every 10 shares of Railtown. That gives you a nice exit. You're out at $50 without paying taxes. But you might still hold Microsoft shares 5 years, 10 years from now. That's my point. We don't know that number yet. I do not think Microsoft will pay us $50 a share unless there's a bidding war soon. But on the other hand, silver skyrocket, I don't agree with the person I was talking to last night. I don't think Railtown's going to be around in a year or 2 years or 3 years. It's okay to plan on it, but I don't think they're going to be a unicorn. And I think it'd be smart that they're not. How do you keep up with a NVIDIA who can throw thousands of programmers at a problem, or at a Microsoft, or at a Facebook that squandered something like $70 billion in Meta and didn't blink an eye, that Metasphere. How do you keep up? The way you keep up is you sell yourself, and then their resources are behind you. But what would it be if they paid $50 a share? It'd be 10 or $11 billion they'd pay for Railtown. IBM just bought that company called, what was it called? Coherent or Cogent or something. They just paid $11 billion. And I think Microsoft paid $13 billion for GitHub. So it's not out of the realm that Microsoft could make an offer to us for every 10 or 12 shares of Railtown, we get a share of Microsoft. But then you would wonder, why would they want to keep a network of companies? They might have the brain power and the manpower, the woman power to sift through that. Or on the other hand, they might spin it off to shareholders. And if they were to spin it off to shareholders, I think Constellation Software, the guys that founded AIP were the first investors in Constellation Software, and they were trying to imitate Constellation Software. It just seems like a natural fit. Hey, what? And so we might end up with some shares of Constellation Software too, or NVIDIA, or I don't know. We'll see what happens. Hello, JJ Jackson, E. Belanger, tired to see the lack of comms. I don't know what comms. News movement. I know. I agree. But I think it's okay. It's the pause for the cause. It's very painful, and it's put me on edge over the last few weeks. I don't know if that was the holidays, though. It might have been. Or, I didn't have the crux of going out and drinking a bottle of wine. So I just had to absorb all that tension and anxiety without drinking, which the last time I did that was during the years my parents went to war and got divorced. So all my teenage years, my 20s. I forget my point. Many people might be going through those kind of feelings as they look at this bloody stuff. But it will end. And once it ends, it'll be over in terms of ever having to deal with these prices again. Except for those three risks I told you. If the software blows up, if they sign a toxic note, it's really those two risks, or three if they sell too soon. But if they sell too soon, my definition of too soon is they sell out at $1.50, or they sell out at $3, or they sell out at $5 a share, or $10 a share. To me, is too soon. But you know what? At least we'd have a good result, and we can go on with our lives. Jeremy Simmons, like you suggested yesterday, just because, what is this? Sorry, that's me. I'm having a hard time talking. Like you suggested yesterday, just because I regurgitated the words you spoke of yesterday, I'm a pretty cool dude, man. Good things, William. And shithouse? Is that a test? What does SH mean? Superhuman? Special hog? SH. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I bet you're a pretty cool guy. 2512 to 2599, 66,000 shares. Hi, Akira Nova. How are you? Alan Weiss. There's a D in my handle. I thought they took the D out. That's good. It's good it has a D. Are you going to the SEC headquarters next week for the Ann Vandersteel? I don't know who Ann Vandersteel is. Probably, but all right. I know January 12th. I'll write it down again. 10 a.m. The answer is probably. It fills me with a little bit of anxiety, but which is all I've been going through for the last 3 weeks or so, and I just don't. I think I'm frazzled to the point of frazzlement, but we'll see. Justin Babish. Wow, 2,500 more shares. Good for you, Justin. That's a huge amount. Huge amount. It's huge. Good for you. Justin Babish, if you are thinking about going to the SEC press conference, you definitely have my support. Thank you. Justin Babish, you came from Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner, Smith and Bean. I'm not old enough to be from Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner, Smith and Bean. They dropped Bean before I was there. But when I started, it was still the bull. That was the symbol, but it was Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner and Smith. And then in the one of the great revamping of our commission structure, and they called it revenue enhancement, which was your commission is going down. And the slogan came out, which I think was James Bond theme song. They cleverly came up with, someone paid for it, to know no boundaries. I don't remember what the song said, to know no, but it was to know no boundaries. And then they came up with that bull they still have. I think prior to that, we were called the Thundering Herd. All in all, for me, my Merrill Lynch experience was like going to a great grad school. You know, it was big. You know, McCabe and Berta. You owned Torchlight. You owned MMTLP into the Hunt. You own Nextbridge. That's true, Justin. All of that's. And gosh darn it, I'm good enough. And people like me, or people used to like me. Thank you, Justin. Thank you for your support. It means a lot. Dirty Randy, while we wait for Corey to pull, always get a succinct and direct comment. While we wait for Corey to pull his head out of his netherworld, look at MGRX. If news comes, this is going to run. All right, MGRX. So for those of you who want to trade something, I don't know what MGRX is. But I think Dirty Randy qualifies as someone who gets information early on in the pump. And I'm not trying to denigrate it, but I think he gets in before all of the phone calls, before the momentum builds. So if you want to follow a strategy like an investor I know of, I think she's professional, you get in when you hear the story, you almost just buy it, and then you study it, but you stay in close, you listen to Ham's calls, you follow the buildup, and you might have to wait. It's not instantaneous, but it could be. But as the story gets inflated that it's going to go to $3,000, she doesn't wait for the $3,000 like an idiot I did not those numbers, but I thought GTII and Finger were going to squeeze. Look, 1 in a million might squeeze. Just don't listen to the squeeze story. Let other people listen to the squeeze story. But if a stock, I don't know where this McGurk gets, let's look it up. I'll put it on my Sounds like, what's that Yiddish word for screwball? Mishevich. All right, so it's $1. It's up from 52 cents this year, but it's been as high as 6. So I would say that's a stock. If you want to do it, you get in early and you ignore all the upside dreamy stock, because there will come selling, but it's hard to borrow. I mean, I'll try to look at it. I have no idea, but if it really got some legs, maybe it goes to 5 or 6. I don't know the parameters to look for, but this professional investor, she would probably get out at 4 or 5 or 6 and let everybody else have the upside. And if you treat it that way, you can make some money, or at least get out a half or a third. That's what they used to train us to do when the stock doubled. See, that's how much the world has changed. Now everybody expects everything to go up 3, 4, 5, 600%. But we were over and over. If it doubles, sell a third. If it doubles again, sell another third, and then keep the rest for a while. But nobody ever does that. So anyway, I would just point out to you, if you are a trader, that I think Dirty Randy does get new information early on in the stock pool, in the the push, and it may squeeze, I don't know, but one strategy is, every time you hear these stories, get in early with a little bit of money, and when it moves, don't be greedy, just get out. My own opinion is, but I don't know that. If Railtown sells too early, I'm going to be wrong. But my opinion is, your investment in Railtown pretty soon is going to go up 10 or 20x. So for me, any of these other things for now are a distraction, unless you know how to, do. I'll put some there, come back to this. It's all, everybody makes their own strategy. But then from that, let's say 20x, let's say Railtown goes 20x to $5, which I think could happen in February. It might take till April, but I think it could happen in February. But from that 5x, if you hear me, I mean, I get ridiculed for the target, but I think Railtown can go to $50, maybe on its own, but certainly in a bidding war. So anyway, somewhere between there. It doesn't have to go that high to have fantastic returns. But I think your account can get big enough that, let's say, in 9 months or before, you can trade some of these stocks with a tiny bit. And you know what? That tiny bit of your new account, you can buy more of that of a stock like this than you can buy now, if I'm right. And so you can even do it on margin, but I'm telling small bits. Do not use margin massively. Do not use margin massively. Ward Richardson, good afternoon, William and RT. Talis has a new PR this morning. I looked. I must not have looked. Let me look. I did look at probably 6:30, and then I got on the phone. So it was probably, maybe I only looked at 6:30. I might have only looked at 6:30. TELUS hires financial advisors as it seeks partner for TELUS Health business. I think there's going to be another stock that we can participate in, possibly in the health area, but let's see what comes. TELUS leadership. Yeah, they all bought a lot of stock, like 300,000 or 400,000 shares. Digital health giant seeking 160 million people. No, sorry, serving 160 million people seeks new strategic partner with a low body count. Yeah, I don't see it. Wonder where you saw it. Maybe you have to look it up in Canada. Maybe you have to look it up with, where to find it. Let's see, on the TSX. Or I guess I'll just go to their website. It's down. They need AI. TELUS went all in with Huawei. Now it's all in with Open RAN. TELUS begins latest conversion of telephone utility site. But these are all old. It says the TELUS website is down. That's a month ago. Okay. Let me just try TELUS.com. I can't find that news. All right, let me keep going. I will try to find it. TELUS has a new PR this morning. Microsoft. Oh, maybe it's Microsoft had that news. Let me look. All right, Ward, I love that story, but I can't find it. Microsoft CEO stated the company aims to double its data center portfolio in the next 2 years. Wow. Potentially. All right, Donna. Hi, Donna. Good question, Silver. Reaching 800 plus facilities. Wow. Jess Ward, I know that people can be accused of being crazy, but can you imagine if Railtown proves on the TELUS data center that and there is evidence, I've shown you the slides, that Railtown is solving a problem no one else is. And they asked Microsoft before they started, are you doing this? So it's possible anyway that the Railtown solution becomes worldwide. Or Microsoft buys it. I think Microsoft could spend 1% of their market cap, give us $150 a share, and in stock, and make it pay for itself. I mean, there's a lot to dream on the upside, but there's also quite a few slips between cup and lips. Justin, plus you don't have to make any excuses to traders because you're an investor, not a trader. And I bet that if you met him there, you would have a good interaction, not confrontational. Well, never know. One never knows. Do one. All of the MMTLP Army know who you are and respect you. Up until the point that I recommended Railtown too soon. That was my introduction to you. I've learned a whole bunch being here. Well, okay. Donna M. Ham lost me a lot of money. I'm not a day trader. Well, that's one thing, Donna, and I'm glad you re-emphasized that. I'm going to have to go at 4 o'clock because it's my sister's birthday today. And I have to walk to the, I'm not going to say where. But one thing, and I showed it in that book, you know, money talks, but it don't walk. And between you and me, I'm forever in blue jeans. Bum, 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 bum. Money walks, talks, but it don't sing and dance, and it don't walk. I can't find the book. But anyway, something about money on the title. Psychology of Money. One thing is you have to know who you're listening to. And Ham, you know, his whole milieu is nanosecond trades, 1 day trades, 1 week trades. And that's fine. But you got to fit that into what your strategy is. And this Railtown is not a day trade. It just simply is not a day trade. In fact, I think Railtown potentially is a one decision stock. You buy it, unless something goes wrong, or that I hope it doesn't happen, a squeeze happens. But unless something surprising happens, you buy it, and your decision is whether, you know, to accept an offer from TELUS to buy the stock at, you know, I don't know, $2 billion. Buy the stock at $8 a share, and then you get TELUS stock. I don't know. I wish I'd known to sell when the stock went up instead of holding for unreasonable Ham numbers. Exactly. And everybody, by the way, everybody falls susceptible to it. But that momentum was amazing. And if it had been back when Ham worked on Wall Street, or back when I did, it could have squeezed. But I think things have so dramatically changed. Well, Wall Street now is a bunch of asset gatherers. They might as well be insurance salesmen. And you know, they give you a charts and diversify here and do that. And so then they get into the game. They have to outperform each other, which is why they on the one hand, they create these private equity channels where they can just state the valuation, and then they can create the valuation at the next level, and they do each other's deals. They always do each other's deals. So they can walk the price up. I mean, it's as much of a fraud as what the criminals do, walking it down, because the criminals are paid for by those kind of funds. Like SAC needs performance. We're just the suckers. I want us to stop being suckers. But as a friend of mine said out of Cincinnati, why don't we just buy the ETFs and get 8%? Or why don't we just buy the funds, get 8%, and let them make their money? And she was right. I think getting into the fight against shorts is virtually self-immolation. I told you, Donna, I sat with Jim Brinkley, who's just a gentleman, a total prince of a man. He's got to be well into his 80s now. I'm not sure he quite remembered me, but his firm tried to recruit me over and over again. I sat down, I said, you may not remember, but we've had many conversations and meetings, and you all tried to recruit me. He said, well, we must have done a bad job, because I never went, but I probably should have. They ended up selling their entire brokerage arm to what's now Morgan Stanley. But their asset management side, I think, stayed independent, but might since have been sold. But anyway, I asked him pretty quickly about short selling, blah, blah, blah. And he said, you should stay away from, because I put it in the context of a fight. He might have initially thought I meant I want to do it. I said, no, I don't want to do it. I want to fight it. He said, no, you shouldn't. I'd stay away from that. He said, you don't want to be involved, because the first thing is you're going to be involved with a bunch of bad people, and you're going to be involved. You're not going to be prepared to deal with that I forget what word he had used, but those kind of people. You're just not. You don't want to be associated with them. And then he said, no, I just would find something else to do with your life. And then a little bit later, he said, no, I just find something else to do. And anyway, he's I would think his advice, Donna, we should all take. We don't want to fight the shorts, and we don't want to be the capital that makes those computers hum. Let's just get away from it. I mean, bloody Barrett Gold went from under $10 to $40, and I was telling you about it. I didn't do it, but we could have made money just buying that stock. Or there's other ways to make money than taking the firecracker approach to investing by listening to these deals. Yeah, maybe one you get out of your hand and it goes up over New York Harbor and it's a perfect picture, but a bunch of them blow up in your hand too, and you can't get your hand back. It's not worth it. Justin Babish, yes, Donna, it's still eating my own face for not selling Finger at 5. Yeah, me too. Me too. Me too. Donna, I own 882 shares of NextBridge. I waited 18 months before getting out of MMTLP. I think it's fantastic you moved it. I don't know what you paid, very few people paid more than I did, but if you hold that, and why not now, I think you'll get your money back. I mean, obviously you know all the risks, but I think you couldn't be more fortunate to have Greg McCabe at the helm. He's got integrity, best I can tell. That's my opinion, but I stand by it. He could have walked away. He could be self-dealing, but he's not. He's buying deals and putting them in the company. I think you're going to make. Look, oil right now at $30, $35, whatever it is, I don't know. Is it $55? I haven't been watching. It could come down, unless we go to war, it could come down to $25, $30, $35. There are projects out there that I'd like to get all of us involved that make money, that are safe at $20, $25. But I haven't been able to fund those first for bureaucratic delays, and now maybe for serious mistakes maybe on my part. I don't know. But anyway, my point is, after oil if it has a correction from here, I think over the next 5-10 years, oil's going to 500. I once asked Matthew Simmons, and I got to get through these comments. I once asked Matthew Simmons, or somebody else did, how high, when is oil going to go to $100 a barrel? You said it was going to go to 6 figures. And he said, I didn't say it was going to go to 100,000. He said, if I'm right, it's going to go to 6, not 100,000. Sorry, wrong number. I got distracted. I'm not saying it'll go to $100 a barrel. I'm saying, I didn't stop there, he said. I think it can go to $500, $600, $700 a barrel. Of course, that was a decade ago, but I think that's what's ahead, Donna. And in that environment, I think Greg McCabe can make NextBridge work. And if other people start to realize that, there's going to be a mad rush to move MMTLP shares, so-called, they're worthless. They're nothing, to move them to NextBridge. So I'm glad you did it. Wow, Estivo added another 20. Steve, you're amazing. You're amazing, Steve. You're going to become you're going to become the Bitcoin-like big swinging swagger guy. That's amazing, Steve. Good for you. Justin Babish, anyone who is part of MMTLP NextBridge story should hear Junk Savvy Space Call on X from 12/21. I haven't listened to it, but thank you for sending it to me. Unknown Stuntman, Steve, 25.5. That's a great price. Good for you. I'll definitely check out Junk Savvy Space Call. Thanks, Justin. The link. Maybe if I come on the weekend, we can all listen to it together. Good. Justin, let's just say George Palakris was there, and the lady doing the press was there. Lots of new info. Good. I like George, even though his board didn't listen to him. Hey, Donna, it says good afternoon, Donna. I'm waiting to clear more and buy more shares. Yes, Kim Bassinger. I sat right next to her. And then at the other table, as I walked in to Cipriano's with my friend, we had been at the King Cole bar, and he took. There were three of us. There were two of us and a client, and as I remember. But he said, "Let's go up there." He called and did the whole hobble-de-gee, the whole suave Arab thing or whatever he did. But we got a table, but they're small. They're all crowded together, and so as we're coming in, we had to wait a bit. And there's this beautiful woman, and I just said, "Man, did you see her?" And he just like, "Gosh." And we're walking down to our table. I said, "Do you see her?" He said, "Hoss, you're shut up. That's Cindy Crawford." I said, "Oh, okay. Of course she's beautiful." And then where we sat down was next to us was a table, to my memory, of two people, and one of them was Kim Basinger. And we're right next. We're right next. In fact, every time I turned over, I'm basically having dinner with her. And then in the back of the restaurant, Billy Joel was having dinner with somebody, another beautiful woman. But during my meal, suddenly I got smashed, bumped, and Billy Joel is shuffling through the tables, and his, not his ass, but sort of his hip and lower body really hit into me, my back, and he goes over to say hi to Kim Basinger, and he sits down, and she blew him off. But that was a heck of a night for me. I was like, wow, I want to come to this place every night. Silver Skyrocket. It's nice there's no bashers today. That's true, except um, uh, oh, yeah, it's nice. Happy birthday to your sister, William. Well, you know what? I can't resist, and I'm going to take a quick break. I can't resist. Of course, it's not here. Darn it. Darn it. All right, so I have to send it. Um, okay. So, oh, I shut you guys down. I didn't mean to. All right, there it is. I didn't mean to. Somehow I turned it off. Okay. So I'll be right back. Uh, It's Elvis's birthday. And my dad always asked a joke. He'd say, you know how they called Elvis Presley Elvis? Elvis the Presley, I guess he'd say. Elvis the Presley. Anyway, he said, what would have happened if they called him Enos? He'd always say that joke as if it were funny. Thank you, Red Pepperoni. However, if Ham has been in Finger himself for 5+ years, this shows he is an investor long term. Finger was Ham's pony to ride, and I don't think he's done. Let's not talk about that now because it'll take too long, but because I've got to go in 20 minutes. Well, I can probably go, actually, I can probably go at 4:15. I can probably go at 4:30. 4:15 to be safe. So I got a little time, but I don't want to get talking about Finger and the short squeeze stuff right now. I think Finger is in a really dicey spot because they're going to need money. And now there could be a surprise. They might know the one Hail Mary could be revenue from that C2 contract. I don't know, but you know what capital's available out there. Unless they can bring it in from offshore in a plain vanilla format, there's some risk. But I'm not saying it's going to be bad either. So anyway, let's talk about it. Personally, I do not dislike him from my experience. I learned from him a little bit too. Well, I agree with that. I don't dislike him. And he tells a compelling story, but I feel like a sucker that not from him, that I just didn't sell everything at $9, $8, $5. But I probably would have played the next idea and lost. Who knows? I think the key lesson is to not play these stocks for those reasons, other than the way I just told you. If you get in early, let him or somebody like him in, and I'm not using it with a bad connotation, but if they can drive the stock price up and it's got all this fairy tale on top, get out before everybody else sells. Because what happens, Justin and Donna, is it's the computer programs have a range, and it busts out of that range because of buying, and for a while it goes haywire, and the computers, they're still pressing, but they don't know what's behind it. They're just idiot computers, so they're testing it, testing it, testing it. And as it peaks, that testing, they start to gain purchase. And then they started on the way back down. And they've got the patience, as you can tell, of years. So it's, Donna, me too, but I don't listen to his call once I decided to sell my other stocks and buy Railtown. That's me too, because I don't want to get distracted. It's easy to get distracted, but oh my gosh, that's a new story. I better go over there. I really do believe Railtown is how we, for those that still remain, this is how we get whole, and maybe we get nicely paid. Exactly. That's what he would say. That's how he would tell the joke. You remember, you know how they call him, they call Elvis Presley Elvis the Pelvis? What if his parents had named him Enos? My dad would forever tell that joke as if I never heard it before. And I think his brother that died at birth or short, I think he was named Enos. All right, let me show you quickly something. I don't know if I have time to go through it, but Ward sent me something, a Yahoo article that's worth reviewing. I hope I have enough time. It's a good article. And it's not very long, thank God. AI, chips, and robots dominated CES 2026. It's just the beginning, and it's written by whoever that name is, Howley, technology editor. Anyway, it's on Yahoo today. Las Vegas. This conference is in full swing. Thousands of attendees have flooded the city's hotels and the convention center, perusing the various products and devices, blah, blah, blah. 3 key themes driving the conversation across the city: AI, chips, and robots. AI, chips, and robots. To say AI has dominated is an understatement. As you walk through the conference, AI is plastered on virtually everything. I reckon I've killed everything that's ever walked or crawled. And I'm here to kill you, little Bill. With robots walking and crawling. Generative AI and physical AI, which are robots, continue to draw plenty of investments. My opinion, and it's yet to be fleshed out, this is where Railtown is, generative AI and physical AI. But it's not that Railtown's out with the pick and axe trying to find the gold. They are actually, in a way, selling the genes and the sifters and the mules and the tents, so people can go get the gold. Railtown is going to be on top, at least with TELUS, they're going to be on top of the data center and the compute power and the large language models, while other people create the AI, the generative AI, the AI agents that make the robots work, that make AI work. So in a way, Railtown becomes a provider, like, as it was said to me, a data center is kind of like the utility. It's the electricity. It's the compute power. Railtown is providing that so other people create the agentic agents, the software. I don't even know if they use that word anymore. Anyway, that to me, it's just a great story. Of course, maybe I'm just high on my own supply. Hit Google. Samsung, the trifold, AI capabilities, NVIDIA, the Vera Rubin. She discovered, as you saw, that galaxies, all the swirl is at the same speed. So she might be credited with discovering dark matter. That's a big deal. And all their chips. Tokens, this is in case you didn't know what tokens do, but the Vera Rubin gives a 10x, 10 times improvement in throughput at the data centers versus the Grace Blackwell platform. And it provides a 10x reduction in token costs. So I hope, I'm going to try to find out, that the TELUS data center gets updated to the Vera Rubin, which sounds like a train or a deli sandwich. But it sounds like a train, the Vera Rubin. Tokens in AI models represent things like words, parts of a sentence, images, and videos. And if you think of LangChain, that guy, what he came up with is, why don't we link groups of tokens together in a chain and join the chain gang? Models use tokens to break these concepts into more easily processable pieces via tokenization. And so it's a 10x reduction in token costs. Well, in this concept of reducing costs, you're going to want to make sure that your orchestration framework, your ADKs, help you spend less time using the data center, and they're more efficient, they're fast, and they catch any bugs or any software problems before they occur. That's Railtown. I'm sure others are going to get there. And then we saw that they're talking about self-driving. That's all robotics. That's all data centers. And if you start to think that Railtown is selling jeans or picks or mules to the miners, in a way, Railtown is sitting there as this usage of AI expands. Railtown is at the data center, and it's agnostic to who uses it. But anyway, AMD Lisa Sue, that also sounds like the name of a motorboat, Lisa Sue, or a song, country song. CEO Dr. Lisa Sue, we heard all of that yesterday. Dr. Sue said that her rack is the best, and her company's rack is the best AI rack, which is a shot at NVIDIA. Both systems run massive, 72 massive AI chips per rack. Look at it right here. Railtown's on top of all that shit. Now, I admit I don't know what I'm talking about compared to people in technology, but that's a good place to be on top of that. AMD, it's like a bird sitting on top of a rhinoceros's back eating the insects. And then AMD, then Qualcomm. So it's a three-way fight. And Railtown's indifferent to that fight. They all buy picks and axes and mules. In addition, I don't think it's nice you making fun of my mule. Now, I know you men are just joking, but you see my mule, he doesn't understand. So I'm sure if you apologize. NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, Qualcomm. Robotics. Railtown is ready for robotics, at least the first step in it. Self-driving cars, robotic arms, and humanoid robotics. Surgery. Hyundai and Boston Dynamics have plans for a value chain to mass produce robots. It's all pretty amazing, don't you think? But I wanted to show you this. Let me tell you this. A kiss is just a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. As tears go by. Oh, that's not it. Here it is. Barron's article. Robots are coming. What investors need to know. Robots are coming. It's Skynet. Get down. A Tesla bot is seen. That's the picture. Morgan Stanley projects robotics revenue will reach, listen to this word, $25 trillion. $25 trillion by 2050, with humanoid robots and robotaxis comprising half. A 300-fold increase in LiDAR demand. That's that cameras and radar. Companies like Tesla, Meta, NVIDIA possess foundational technology for robotics, while others provide enabling or computer tech. We're in that category of others. It's good to be another. Morgan Stanley's Adam Jonas has stopped covering cars to focus on embodied AI. I kind of think rail tracks is here. That's AI with a physical form. It's not that Railtown's going to be in the robot. They're going to be back at the data center processing all that real-time stuff. AI-enabled robotics helps usher in the third industrial revolution. AI-enabled robotics ushers in the third industrial revolution. That sounds pretty big. That sounds bigger than a Subaru, bigger than a Honda. The steam engine ushered in the first industrial. Sorry for let me just drink some coffee. The steam engine ushered in the first industrial revolution. The proliferation of electricity and steel production ushered in the second. Nobody ever mentions the deacon. Nobody ever mentions oil, but whatever. Those technologies help create the modern economy by multiplying a worker's productivity. Robots can do the same. To size the potential, Jonas multiplies the global labor force of some 4 billion people by $10,000. That's a $40 trillion opportunity, or 1/3 of global GDP. Wow, global GDP's expanded. He projects 25 trillion in robotics revenue by 2050. And it affects rare earths. AI compute capacity needs to expand 40,000 times. And if you imagine that Railtown's on top of data centers, in my lingo, it's very compelling. It's where you want to be. I could be wrong. Rare earth magnet demand will jump 480 times. AI compute capacity needs to expand 40,000 times. That's a big number. Even for a lughead like me, that's a big number. Those numbers are huge. He isn't the only one saying it. NVIDIA CEO believes robotics will be one of the largest industries in human history. Well, what makes it work? Data centers. What makes data center works? Large language models and ADKs. And you need ADKs that can process real-time changing information. What is that? That's rail tracks. Now, are others going to be there? Sure. It's too big of a market that there won't be competition. But we know in Canada, where in Canada you have to do your internet with an internet provider out of Canada, we know the whole country hates Trump, and the whole country wants, therefore, to be Canadian sovereign on everything. I understand their toilet paper comes from Canadian trees. So, all right, it closed under 25 cents, 24.73, 80,000 shares. To know no boundaries. All right. So Jensen Huang believes robotics will be one of the largest industries in human history. Musk sees 30 trillion in an annual robot revenue. 30 trillion. And a lot of that revenue is going to have an expense line on it to use data centers. And that use of data centers, at least in the case of TELUS, to start out with, is going to be a revenue share with Railtown providing the ADKs. What if they prove up that that ADK is fantastic, fantastical? Microsoft buys them, in my opinion. One milestone is, oh, screw his $1 trillion pay package. He should have married, what's her name, should have married him. Anyway, there's a bunch of names there. These are all potential buyers, I think, of Railtown. But look, Railtown's not the only company out there that's going to be bought. I think there's going to be hundreds of AI companies bought. Railtown's not the only one. Before you dismiss the Morgan Stanley analyst Jonas' predictions is out of hand, you must remember that he published research on SpaceX years ago. He suggested 5 years ago that SpaceX could be valued at 175 billion. It's already 800 billion. So you can listen to the boo birds or listen to the due diligence of the people in cahoots, whether intentionally or not. Or maybe you listen to Morgan Stanley. I don't know. There is a host of automakers working on autonomous solutions. BYD, NIO, Rivian, Lucid, Aptiv, Ouster, Hesai, Uber, and Lyft. Only Tesla has revealed humanoid robot prototypes, according to Jonas. There are many Chinese and private U.S. companies have models. In America, investors can check out Figure, Agility Robotics, 1X in China, Xpeng and Zumai, Fourier and Robotera. Robotics will also benefit providers of automation technology such as ABB, Fanuc, Honeywell, Needtech, Rigo, and the list goes on. When is a good question. Lots of industrial robots and small drones are sold around the globe today, but there are no truly useful humanoid robots and only a handful of robotaxis. I think the useful humanoid robots will rapidly be developed as sex workers, and that's what's going to get it done. But that's my prediction. And then the next headline, I couldn't open this story, but it said Tesla stock can't handle the robot competition. I put that up there because maybe Tesla buys companies that helps it compete, and maybe one's Railtown. You never know. Here's the suite of the Railtown products: Build, Feed, Observe, Rail Tracks, Rail Engine, and Conductor. They're ready to go. Langchain raised money to develop products, and products always get developed, and these will change. They already have changed, but it's pretty exciting, I think. And I showed you this. The stock, they're driving it even lower in I'm sure in Canada. This is the Canadian stock. And they can keep driving it, but at some point it's going to break out of that, and it could get exciting. I think it'll snap back to the highs, or almost to the highs, when it breaks out. All right, so it's 4:05. Let me see if Pirates sign Ryan O'Hearn. Phillies Alec Baum avoid arbitration. Braves claim Ken Voldachuk, and one wonders how many balls Voldachuk can chuck if Ken Voldachuk were to chuck baseballs. A lot of arbitration avoided. All right. No breaking news there. Let me see what you guys are saying. Check your email. I can't do it. I can't do that checking while I'm online, but let me show you something. I don't know. I thought I showed this yesterday, but maybe I didn't. For everyone to dream. I crossed out the amounts there, but this is what happened to Steve's account in the middle of the night. The stock went to $42 a share. Imagine. That's right in my buyout target wheelhouse. I could be wrong. But imagine if that happens. Look at what Steve's going to be worth. And for Steve, if he gets chased out of the stock at $10, he's going to pay taxes. One of the advantages, let's just say this happens. Let's say Microsoft comes in May and makes an offer to buy Railtown, and Corey says, I'll put it to the shareholders, but I'm still going to listen to other offers. And maybe NVIDIA comes in, and maybe TELUS comes in, and then, I don't know, Oracle comes and wins it all, really bids. And so Microsoft says, you know what, we really want them. Let's just issue stock. And maybe they do it at $42, $43 a share. Well, the one advantage to Steve, I know some of this is probably in retirement accounts, but one of the advantage to Steve is that bump up in equity, which makes him truly a wealthy man. That bump up in equity can happen if he just lets Microsoft buy the company. It can happen without having to pay taxes. If, on the other hand, he gets shaken out at, let's say, halfway up there, $30, he's got to pay taxes on, let's say, half of it, so he can reinvest 15 million, and so his upside is cut in half. That's one of the reasons I don't want you guys to get shaken out. But we don't have enough evidence yet to prove whether or not I'm correct on my optimism. I don't think the stock price is telling me anything other than the heaviness has destroyed the market cap. All right, it's 4:09. Let me check another comment. Hey, Snoopy. Now you have my phone number. I'll be waiting. Yeah, right. Okay. I'll call. All right, if I can beg off, I'm going to get ready and start walking. So thank everybody for tuning in. Like I say, it might be a slog for the next, well, it could be 4 or 5 weeks. It could be longer. I could be wrong. But in my estimation, TELUS is going to announce in the first quarter. And why the hell wait till March? Might as well wait till the second quarter. So I think it's going to be mid-February. How's that? All right. Cheers to everyone. And we'll talk at you later, literally at you. All right, bye.